I always wonder why you don't play music during this, Andy.
You know what? I would love to get somebody to commission them to do like a 8-second, like an intro to a cartoon, but make it like a jam session. So, okay.
Your jam session.
I saw it pop up on my Facebook feed. We are officially live. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. This is our 42nd. It's kind of hard to believe. Real Producers, Chicago Real Producers jam session. And we're doing this one. This is our third one honoring Women's History Month. I'm obviously not a woman, but everybody else on here is. So I'm literally going to add zero value to this conversation. But, our primary mission statement with our platform is to connect, elevate, and inspire realtors and just industry professionals in the city of Chicago, and not help everybody maintain their business, but really to thrive and scratch each other's backs. What I know about realtors is like, real estate's a funny industry to me. It's like there's one side of the coin that is, hey, type A personality, entrepreneur, gotta go knock down the door and get mine. But in real estate, what I know as successful realtors, it's like there's the other side of the coin, which does take some intentionality to massage. Is like, hey, we all still have to get along and play nice in the sandbox. And everybody on this Zoom is in the latter side. Obviously they are in the former side as well, but in the latter side as well, because sometimes that side of the coin gets ignored. And so I'm honored to share the screen with these individuals. I'm not a woman, obviously. I'm calling my wife out. I told her, I said, your face looks better than mine, and you should probably run one of these, at least for the women's one, but obviously not happening today. So with that, I'm grateful to be present, and I'm going to stop talking, let the realtors introduce themselves, then I'll let the partners introduce themselves. I got a couple announcements, and then we'll start jamming. So, Candace, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Awesome. Hi, I'm Candice McCutcheon. I am with Melanie Everett and Company, and I have been in real estate just over 2 years.
I'm Carissa Giancarlo. I am broker at Compass. I'm with the Kate Waddell Group, and I have been in real estate just shy of 5 years.
I'm Tori. I am with Olive Well at Compass, and I have been in real estate for about like 4.5 years.
I'm Krista Harkin. I'm with Keller Williams, and I'm on the Weinberg Troy residential team. I've been in real estate for 5.5 years.
Great. Got some good representation with some teams. So as realtors, you are experts in your field, and obviously mentored by great individuals, male and female alike. I'm going to allow the partners to introduce themselves. Before I do that, 2 very quick announcements. What is the one-liner? Pause for station identification, something like that. We are putting together, realtors run hard, and I get that. The mind, the hamster is always on the wheel. So we're putting some together. It's actually a week from today. Tuesday, March 16th, 3 p.m. We're just doing a fun little virtual bingo. It'll probably be like an hour and a half-ish, but just something quick that you can sort of turn off your brain, win some stuff. And, we can't rally everybody. Like a lot of our events are 150, 200 people. So we're just putting this together. It's something fun. It's only for realtors in the Chicago area and just our preferred partners. So if you want to register for that, it is on Eventbrite. And one other thing, because I still keep getting hit up, which is not a bad thing. It's a positive problem to have. It's like too many listings, or I don't know, too many closings. People keep asking me, hey, do you guys have a digital version? Love the magazine. Of course we have a digital version. It's 2021. It is a private publication, so it's not like online, but we do have a private app. It's called Digipub. You can see it right there. You can download it. It's free. Currently, it is free. Eventually, we'll probably start charging for it because we sunk a chunk of change into it. But what I know is if you have a copy on your phone, all you got to do is set up an account, search Digipub, choose Illinois, Real Producers. You'll have access to all the past issues, all the past events, just in anything probably that you want. Hey, can you send me a PDF? I get requests for that all the time. So hopefully that pops some of those bubbles, and I will get less email inquiries than I already do. So the events, Digipub, the platform, I cannot do what I do without our partners. I mean, we pride ourselves in being a non-pay-to-play platform for realtors. We do all of our features based on nominations and volume. Realtors aren't paying us to be featured, and so that's great. How does that happen? Our partners support it. I mean, this is essentially a community-driven platform for realtors. I am the person just who puts the puzzle together. But if you're wondering where I'm, 99% of my life is sarcastic and fun dad jokes, but this is the 1% of the time I am dead serious. Like Mia, Angie, Katrina, I can't do what I do without you. I mean, literally, I thank you. My staff thanks you. My wife thanks you, because a lot of people know she does work with me. So that being said, from the bottom of my heart, these are the people who got us through 2020 and into this year. And God willing, we will have an event in the summer, end of summer, early fall, depending on vaccinations. I'm not going to try to put a date on it, but that is my hope and my prayer. So that being said, I'm gonna allow the partners introduce themselves, and then we'll start. I'm gonna get out of the way and we'll start jamming. So Mia, I'm excited. Why don't you go ahead and go first?
Hi everyone, I'm Mia Hable from Artfully Arranged Staging, and I do vacant and occupied staging for about almost 4 years.
Hi everybody, I am Katrina Barnett. I am a real estate attorney in the Chicagoland and suburb areas, and I have been doing primarily real estate transactions for about 7 years now.
Hey guys, I'm Angie Wozniak. I am with Midwest Lending. We are a mortgage broker out of Chicago and the surrounding suburbs. And I have been doing lending for just over 5 years now, and was in real estate for about 2 years before that.
That's great. And then Tori and Angie, actually, that's who introduced us. So I remember talking to Angie, and I thought that was just kind of an interesting perspective. There's a lot of people who've been in the industry, but when you've actually sold real estate and can do the lending side, you bring a different area of expertise to the game. So I am going to shut up and get out of the way. Let's start jamming. I know, Carissa, you had a good point when we were sort of pre-gaming. So why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Yeah, so this situation just happened to me Friday, and I'd love to hear how you would handle it. And then Katrina and Angie, a lot of questions for you guys too around this busy season. So it was Friday afternoon, I took a buyer out. She loved the place. We were going to put an offer in, and the listing was having an open house on Saturday. So I put the offer in hopes that, these sellers were up late and they would love the offer, close the open house, everything would be roses and rainbows. 10 minutes after I sent my offer, I got an offer for one of my listings asking for basically the same thing. And it was really interesting, just my feelings towards both. So I'd love to hear how you realtors handle late night Friday offers with open houses the next day.
I was going to say, I totally see both sides of it. It's like when you're on the listing side, you're like, oh, like I don't want to miss any other potential buyers, especially if it's a newer listing. And then if you are on the buy side, you're like, oh, like, let's just get this done. Like, let's wrap this up, and I think it kind of just ultimately falls to what your seller wants to do, but, and kind of just guiding them, like, this is what could happen. Like, these people who made the offer tonight, like maybe they'll find something tomorrow. There's just weighing all the options, but it's such a tough situation. And it's funny, I hear so many agents say like, oh, I hate multiple offers. And it's like, I can't tell if I hate them or love them. It's like a part of me hates them, but a part of me really likes them too.
Yeah, I think I work a lot primarily with buyers. So being on that end, I always try to give the agent a call and be like, hey, we want to make an offer. What's going to make your seller cancel these open houses this weekend? Because sometimes it's, a full price, everything that, great offer. And sometimes it's not. I had the other weekend, same thing. Friday, we saw it. They loved it. Full price offer. They chose the closing date, really financially qualified buyers, like everything you could want on paper. And they were like, no, in order for us to cancel the open, we're countering 15,000 above listing
Oh, wow.
price. And I was like, okay, then at what point do I say to my clients, sure, if they go through with the open houses, they could easily get multiple offers and it could go for that much, but I wouldn't advise them with no other offers on the table to go in 15 over. So again, exactly like you said, it's totally like how the seller wants to handle it. And I think some people are like, great, this is exactly what we asked for. I'm happy to sign off. And others are kind of like, let's see what we can get, especially in this market.
And from my perspective, if you're in a multiple offer situation in particular, or if you're giving an offer for a buyer well above the list price, the appraisal comes into effect. And I have had multiple attorney review negotiations where the seller, even during attorney review, refuses for there to be an appraisal contingency, even with a mortgage. And that's been a situation that I've had to tread very lightly. I've had multiple transactions where we've actually been able to get an appraisal contingency as long as there was a cutoff for it. So for instance, on a couple of them, I had to negotiate in that the buyers were going to proceed as long as the appraisal came in within 10 to 20,000 of the purchase price. But if it came in under that, then we would have the appraisal contingency intact. And that I think is very important, because a lot of clients, even though they really want to proceed, it's important to explain to them, you may have to cover the cash difference if your appraisal comes in low, or your appraisal comes in at the list price, but you've offered 15,000 over that. You have to come in with that, not only the closing costs and down payment, but that extra 15,000 as well. And a lot of buyers either aren't financially able to do that, or may not want to do that because they feel like they're starting their purchase process underwater, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I've been prepping a lot of people for that on the lending side as well. Like, hey guys, worst case, this is your bottom line. So are we sure? Let's talk it through and just make sure, because that's, the comps are what they are. So maybe it'll appraise out or a little over, and maybe it won't. And if it doesn't, what's our backup plan, to move forward.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear how people are handling that from, like, if you're representing the buyer perspective, to say, okay, here are the comps, and they're asking for 40,000 over that, and it'll likely sell for that right now. So like, how are you towing that line between, like, I want to make a competitive offer because my clients love this place and I want them to get it, but also being like, you're overpaying, there's always the argument that something is worth what someone's willing to pay for it. But also, when the same unit in the building sold earlier this year for 40,000 less, are you setting them up for it to be a bad investment when they want to go to sell 3 to 5 years from now? Like, how are you advising your clients on that?
I think something that we've been talking about a lot on our team anyways is pretty much exactly what you guys are talking about. But for one, I totally agree with Candace. And when you have a, offer that you want to put in on a Friday before a weekend, I think it's all about asking as many questions as possible as you can to the listing agent. And not only that, but then always asking, like, if you do get another offer coming in, how are you going to handle that? Are you going to ask for highest and best? Are you accepting escalation clauses? And then you can take all of that information and talk with your client about everything, because when they're armed with all the info and you're giving them all the different options and possible outcomes, it's going to be the best way for them then to make a decision. So that's kind of how I handle it. I feel like you want to get it in right away to close down the open houses. That's only going to work if the listing agent says the seller's going to do that. So it could backfire if you submit it too early, in my head.
Yeah, and just so you all know, both offers were accepted prior to the open house, but the open houses were still being held. It's funny, they both worked out. And I used to host a ton of open houses, and so we were giving opportunity for those agents to host and potentially meet clients.
Right.
Yeah.
And with where the market's at right now, I mean, this isn't just happening on a Friday night.
Oh, yeah.
People are coming in all the time. The market's definitely in this place where multiple offers are everywhere. So I think it just always goes back to asking as many questions as possible.
And I think Krista made a good point. The other thing that it can affect are inspection negotiations. So as you guys know, a lot of buyers, when they're trying to make their like best offer to stop an open house from happening, you'll sometimes include that it's an as-is purchase. And I've had quite a few buyers who don't fully understand what an as-is purchase really means. And that can be a great way to get the contract executed and accepted. But if you're looking at purchasing a very old home that you know is going to have inspection issues, that, and especially, and that also brings in Angie with the loan, if you're doing an FHA or a VA loan, you have to be aware that the appraisal can require certain repairs. And so those are also things that are coming up on the attorney review side after the contracts are even accepted. Being able to negotiate inspection items is very difficult when there's either a multiple offer situation or an offer accepted before any open houses take place, because the seller will basically use that against the buyer and say, well, we never tested the market. We're not willing to do any inspection repairs because we could go back on the market and probably get a better offer. And so it's really become a balancing act with understanding what repairs you're expecting. And obviously that's why you would hire an professional inspector, but you want to weigh how much that client, or at least let the client know also how much they may need to expect for repairs on their own end as well. And be prepared for that, because you could end up in a situation where they're not only having to bring that $15,000 in extra cash to the closing because it's over list price, but also have to complete $5,000-$10,000 in repairs to the property that are quite urgent without the seller's help. So
I feel like I've been taking a lot more time at showings and pointing out things like broken seals and maybe some floor cracks that, 2 years ago we wouldn't necessarily do, and deal with that during inspection. So it's kind of changing everything.
What do you guys think about like with your listings that are on the private network, and when you get an offer before you go live, like would you rather go live and like test the market, or do you like if you are on the private network and you get a great offer, do you advise your sellers do you just like negotiate it there? Yeah, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that, because I feel like that's something we've been encountering a lot. And also like making offers on listings on the private network, like, if we go in under that their asking price, like, I feel like just like the seller has so much more power. So curious to know your thoughts on that.
I think for at least the scenario I'm thinking of with my client, it really depended on their situation as the seller. We listed privately and we got an offer and we were negotiating, and we kind of came to terms just under what we were planning on listing it live for. But it was a couple months before they even had plans to go live, and they had a home sale contingency. They were moving out to the suburbs. And I was like, if we wait and list their place live, could we get what we're asking for it? Yes. But then that's going to make their home search on their end in the suburbs harder if we wait. And, accepting this now, even though it's a couple thousand less, probably puts them in a better scenario for their next purchase, versus if I had a seller who didn't have a home sale contingency, or if that wasn't an issue, probably wouldn't be as flexible with price on the private network.
Yeah, I feel like at least for the buy side, because I'm searching a ton on Top Agent Network, private listing network right now, just because of where inventory is. And I feel like it seriously just goes back to asking questions again. Like, it's like, well, for one, why did you decide to list it on the private network? That could alone tell you a bunch about the seller situation and help you position your offer appropriately to best, for your buyer. So questions again, always a key.
Yeah, communication is definitely one of the biggest things that we need to be really strong at, I think, in real estate. Just openness and communication as much as you can.
Yeah, definitely. I think another piece of this too, especially with where the market is, and like putting offers in and multiple offer scenarios, is always figuring out how to think outside stand out, you know? So I was going to actually ask the lender, is Angie, you're the lender, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. I was going to ask you, have you had a lot of agents or buyers ask about appraisals, like waiving appraisals?
Yeah. So if you're financing, you're likely subject to an appraisal. I am getting, we are getting the occasional appraisal waiver at 20% or more down, but it's not as simple. I had an agent ask me this the other day, like, I don't have the power to just waive the appraisal. Like, we, for your protection, want to make sure that market value's there. So I know, like, yes, that will make, potentially your offer more competitive, but if it's a requirement, it's a requirement, and we've just got to do it. That is something that we can check up front. So as you're making an offer, and I've done that too, when I have people putting a good chunk down, I'll run automated underwriting and I'll know up front, like, hey, we got a waiver, we can use this, definitely include that in your offer. And if we don't, then preparing for worst case. So I'm running numbers at multiple price points to show them, hey, here's the change to your payment, here's the change to your bottom line, which it comes into play as well when they're debating, like, oh, should I go, 5 over, 10 over? So doing the math on, like, hey, your difference for an extra 5,000 is maybe, for example, a couple thousand in your bottom line, but pretty minimal on your payment, right? So I think also planting the seed with them for what that looks like in reality, it's not as significant as they would think. So, like, yes, to get it done, if you have to come up 5, do it. It's not gonna, break the bank, the money's there. But the appraisal things, yeah, kind of case by case.
Wait, so you can see if they could get an appraisal waiver before they're under contract?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
That's great. I did not know that.
Yeah, so definitely leverage your lenders and see what tools they have. I've been really strategizing, and we've had to pivot, and adjust as well. Last year, was I available until 9 or 10 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays? No, probably not. Now I am, and I'm getting loans that way because a lot of people, hey, the person they want isn't available. Can you help? Yep, sure can. So see kind of what their availability is. Your pre-approval letters too, are you going in with a blanket number? I'm right now generally going in just with property address, give you guys the leverage to negotiate. Hey, whether it's 15 under ask or 15 over ask, they're approved for this property. So you guys negotiate and take it from there. On the back end, I can crunch numbers to make sure there's no, cold feet, sticker shock. Buyers are comfortable and confident to move forward. But yeah, I definitely recommend any agent, leverage your lender as much as you can, especially in negotiations as well. I've had a lot of good luck with that. Tori and I just got a buyer under contract that way. I proactively called the listing agent before she could call me. And I just gave her peace of mind, like, hey, I've done my due diligence, credit, income, assets, automated underwriting. And then I told her about my process too. I said, hey, you're going to hear from me, whether you answer the phone or not, you're going to get an update from me every milestone, along the way to give your seller peace of mind, because that's really important, especially if it's a seller who maybe they had a previous buyer fall through and they're a little skittish, and that communication piece and closing on time is really important to them. Your lender partner being able and willing to do whatever it takes to give them that peace of mind and stay in constant, transparent communication throughout. That's what's getting deals in some cases done right now. So super important.
I actually really appreciate that, because on the attorney end, one of the number one things I do is chase down lenders for responses on things. So asking them, what's the status of the appraisal? I know the appraisal was ordered. Has it been actually picked up by an appraiser to actually be scheduled?
Yep.
And I had a situation actually last week where I had a buyer who, very similar to what we were talking about before, put in an offer, and we knew there was a backup offer. And this backup offer was continuing to call the listing agent literally every day, saying, how are inspection negotiations going, things like that. And my clients asked for very little on inspection items because they knew about that backup offer. But our biggest concern was the appraisal, because they had offered about list price, and this backup offer we knew was above list price. But our concern was, again, the appraisal. And from the seller side, and that was one of those situations, like I had mentioned before, we ended up negotiating in an appraisal contingency just for a certain amount under the purchase price is when it would kick in. Like, I think we negotiated 10,000 under purchase price is when it would kick in. And I mean, the purchase price that we were at was $850. So this isn't a small purchase. So you do get worried about the appraisal coming $40,000, $50,000 under purchase price in those cases. And I am seeing appraisals come in low. And on the flip side, representing the sellers, I do have to explain to my sellers, which I'm sure you guys do as well, that if you have an appraisal come in low, you're more than likely going to have the same kind of appraisal come in on any buyer. So if you want to threaten and say, like, we're not going to do an appraisal contingency, and that buyer walks away, you're most likely going to have that same issue with whatever buyer you go with, unless it's a cash offer. Or unless that buyer is putting 50% down, something like that. So that's just on the flip side of things. I've had a lot of sellers say, well, why can't we appeal the appraisal? And a lot of appraisers that we have heard back from when we've tried to appeal are basically saying this market is nuts. Nothing is coming in at the price that it should. So we're not going to adjust our appraisal just because the market is outrageous right now. That's going to cause everybody to be underwater and cause problems in the future. So a lot of appraisers are pushing back. It's not as easy to get an appraisal. I'm sure Angie could touch on that even more, but a lot of appraisers are refusing to do reevaluations. I had one come in 60,000 under purchase price, and that was the only one we got to come back. And he came back at purchase price, and that was because it was a new build and he was not used to new builds and they had not finished the property yet. But that's the only successful appraisal appeal I've had in the last 2 months.
Well, an appraisal is a matter, yes, it's backed by comps, but it's also an opinion, which I think people lose sight of. So you can't ask an appraiser to, hey, put more value on this comp, right? So if you're disputing an appraisal and they missed a comp that you feel is better suited, you can submit that comp and say, hey, why wasn't this included? Like, what were you putting weight on? And then you can see, for the comps that they did use, what adjustments were they making? Maybe they didn't use that comp. I've seen this, it was in Naperville. There was a better comp, but it was in a different school district. And that's a really big factor in some of these areas. So you can try to dispute it, but talk to your lender and see, like, hey, we can't dispute based on a comp that was already included. It has to be something separate, or maybe you feel they missed an adjustment, square footage was off, like there was some detail missed, because it's human error, like that happens as well. But just be mindful of that, because at the end of the day, they really can say no, and it is what it is, and you can throw it out and start somewhere new and have another one. But at the end of the day, for a seller, like, if market value isn't there, I feel like you're kind of rolling the dice in some cases to cancel, relist, and then get a buyer doing the same thing.
You had a situation really just recently. I wasn't working with Angie on this one, but an appraisal came in low. There was a backup offer. And so the sellers, we were representing the buyers, and the sellers just said, like, sorry, like, we're not, like, we didn't like waive the appraisal or anything. And the sellers were like, sorry, like, if you guys aren't going to pay the price that you offered, then we're going to go with this other offer. And so we like tried to appeal the appraisal, didn't work, which, like Angie was saying, like, it just never works. So we ended up actually totally just switching lenders. And so it was like, it basically was like what like Angie was saying, it's like an opinion. So it's funny, like the other appraisal like came in like no problem, So anyways, that was like one tactic, like our method of getting it done, which worked, but like obviously it's not ideal for anyone.
Now, how did the seller react in that situation? Because usually when I see that happen, where there has to be a change in lender, you're delaying the closing. And sometimes that matters more to the seller. So did you find that seller just didn't care about that, or did it not affect the closing date?
Well, I think that, so the seller was okay with the closing date being a little bit pushed, like a week or so pushed back. But the other thing is, like, if they had then took the backup offer, they would have had to start all over with a new inspection and everything. So I think that was what we had already negotiated inspection items and all of that stuff. So I think it was like more advantageous for them just to get this new appraisal. But we had to rush order it and, you know, kind of like really go into full force ahead with this new paper. But so yeah, I think they prefer just to keep it as is, but it was stressful, but it ended up working out. So
Yeah. Now, the seller in that situation, was there agreement when there was a switch of lenders that they were going to accept whatever the second appraisal came in at, or if it came in low again, were they still gonna?
there wasn't. I thought that they would push for that, but like the lender was like super confident. The new lender was super confident that the appraisal would be fine, and everyone felt pretty good about it. Oh, the other thing is that the initial appraisal that came in low was a desktop appraisal. And it was someone who like lived in Orland Park or something. The appraiser lived in Orland Park, and it was a home in the city. So I don't know. I think everyone was thinking if it's an appraisal in person and the listing agent can justify the purchase price, it would be different. Are you guys noticing that desktop appraisals come in lower or like are screwed up, or mostly it's okay?
I think they're okay. I think it's like less pressure. And I just want to bring Mia into this because I think we're having all these multiple offers, and because listings are looking so great, I feel like more people are using stagers. Has your business picked up through all of this?
Yes, it has. I've been like more insanely busy than I have in the past, which has been great. But there are some trends I'm noticing, which I wanted to see kind of, are you guys noticing this? Both like on the buyer side, like what they're looking for, and on the seller side, kind of like what they're willing to do to get their house ready. So just something that I'm going to throw out there, and I don't know if anyone else is seeing this, is obviously people want outdoor space. Obviously people want offices, but what I'm really noticing right now is this odd trend of closets.
Interesting.
That's so funny.
I have just noticed this, and people are like, you know, as we go through, we stage, I tell them to get rid of all this stuff. They're stuffing them in the closets. And then I'm having realtors call me back and say, you got to get back over here. Like, I got to get you to clean out these closets for these people and like tell them how to organize them, because everyone is opening up every closet. They want all this space. And I'm not just talking like bedroom closets. I'm talking like people are wanting like linen closets and massive pantries, or like dual pantries, like maybe something in the basement to like carry the like back stock. Like, it's an odd trend that I've been seeing, and I just don't know if anyone else has seen this.
I think, honestly, I think a huge reason for that and just wanting more space in general is because of the pandemic. Like, I had buyers not only just with wanting more space, like closet space, but people are starting to notice their homes more, people in their current homes that they're living. And when you're working from home, if you have kids, like my daughter's at home, I've been talking about closet space for like 6 months, and I just moved into my house 2 years ago. So
What do you do with the toilet paper stockpile? You've got to put it somewhere.
You do.
I think people start recognizing that when we're at home all the time, we do need more space. We need more storage, or we want it, or we're just more aware of it. So that could be a big reason why. I mean, that's also another reason why buyers, like, not to totally switch subjects, but I had buyers earlier in the spring this year that were originally looking in Lincoln Park and Lakeview. And then all of a sudden, you know, they wanted to go into Uptown and wanted to go into North Center. And a huge reason for that is getting more space, and you can get more, you know, bang for your buck in different locations that are less central to the city. So it's a like shift. It's cool. It's different. It's new. And
I've seen a lot of people who I represent them on a sale in the city and a purchase in the suburbs. That's happening a ton right now for me. And when you guys so Krista, when you're preparing with clients, what kind of questions do you guys as realtors ask your clients when you're preparing them to look at properties? And then also when you're in that negotiation phase with the seller's agent, if you're representing the buyer, what are the kinds of questions that you guys look to ask to kind of negotiate those things out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all starts from the top. Like, we have a really streamlined process, I guess. So I always start out with an official consultation, and I've been doing that through Zoom, like everybody I'm sure has. And the main questions I ask are just subjects that I want to know about are what are their goals? What's important to them, and like why are they moving? And just starting there, I can find out so much about, okay, they want Lincoln Park, but from what they're saying, maybe they should actually look into this area, or maybe they should consider looking at duplexes or townhomes, or if they want more space, they could get a single family home, but in a different location. So I try to gather as much information, just listen and process and kind of analyze. And then from there, I work it where I can guide them, where I think it truly would be in their best interest. So starting there, and then the negotiations, I kind of set up the expectations through the consultation as well. And sort of explain like different approaches that I take with negotiating. And then when we're going through it, I'll ask them like, what are your comfort levels? Like, I'm never going to push a client into something they're not comfortable, but I always say to them, I'm always going to give you my professional opinion and tell you where I think after running comps, like this is the value. You know, you might have to overpay with where the market is, but are you okay with that? What's the number that you are absolutely okay with walking away knowing another buyer got it for $1,000 more?
Yeah.
So those
That's a
types
good
of
question.
questions are, yeah, it just, you know, it allows them to really process everything and think through every possible outcome so that they're not shocked if, you know, the worst case scenario comes through. And then if we get it, they're super excited because they know that they had all the information up front and they can make the best decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I'm obviously always brought in after the contract is executed, so I never know how much of a conversation is happening before. And obviously, there's a huge spread. Different agents handle things different ways, so that's all very helpful to know how you go about that process. I think it's important for the buyers to know what to expect.
Yeah.
Totally. And like, it's also setting up expectations for what's going to happen once they're under contract with you, you know, with the attorneys and with the lenders, like what are their roles? So that the buyers are just feeling comfortable and not, it's nerve wracking. It's a big purchase. So
Yeah.
Managing expectations, I feel like, is everything. I've had buyers like switch agents because like managing expectations, adjusting expectations, and understanding like us as the professionals, we all have the same goal, right? So it can get emotional and it can get sticky and messy, but at the end of the day, like we're guiding them down the best path and we all want the same thing, like get the loan closed, exchange the keys, exchange the checks, like do all that stuff. So I think just setting expectations and managing them properly up front is like game changer, especially in this market. And some people aren't doing that and the clients feel it.
totally.
Yeah.
Working with first-time home buyers again a lot. There's a lot that they don't know. They've never gone through this before. And so we provide them more information than anyone would ever want to know. We say it's like a cover your butt type thing because we don't ever want someone to come back and be like, you didn't tell me this, you know? And so it's like, we're giving them so many resources. I'm like trying to be extra cautious, like always pointing out like, this is brick, this is split face block, like here's what you need, like all of these things, like, and an inspection report, like we take the time, we go over it, we go through the report, we send our thoughts, because first time home buyers a lot though, just like, okay, like we send this to the seller and they fix everything. And so it's like, we're always making sure that we're telling them like way more information just so that they can't, you know, come back and blame you for whatever happens down the road.
Yeah, and that's a way to make long-term relationships too. You know, if you're like pushing somebody into something just to get a deal done, you're not going to create a business that's long lasting, you know? So it should be about client, like Candace is saying.
Agreed.
Are you guys cool with doing a screenshot
You have
real
to smile
fast?
now.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, like some of the, I mean, everybody on here, Realtors Partners, like we should, you know, I think some of you guys are better selling real estate than some of your team leads. Like we should just do a whole issue maybe on just like team members. Maybe we can throw that together in the next.
Maybe in April. I don't know.
We'll figure it out. I don't know. We'll throw it out there sometime. I don't know. I'll get right on that. Hold on really quick. This may or may not be in a future issue of RP. Okay, now do not, one disclaimer I will say with the screenshot, and Mia and Katrina, you've heard this joke before, so you have to laugh. Please do not be like my children and like smile for a half a second and then stop, okay? Because then I want to do like 5 takes. So when you see me stop smiling, then you stop smiling, okay? But usually we nail this in the first tries. It's always the guys that are the problem, okay? Just throwing that out there. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we might have done it. Looks good. Candice, your face, I love it. You're like an angel with
Thank you.
sun. No,
Enjoy
it
the
looks
beacon of
good.
light.
It looks great. I think it looks good. So anyway, we nailed it. I think we nailed that on the first try. Good job. Continue.
I have another question for Mia. So are you solo? Is it just you?
It is just me, which is both good and bad. It means that I actually do all, like if it's a vacant property, I do rental through a furniture rental company so that I have all those people to move the furniture for me. But it comes in really handy when I do occupied stages because the less people in the seller's house, the better.
Yes.
So when it's an occupied stage, I come in usually like in the morning, and I like bright and early, 8 a.m. And I bring like a car full of rugs, art, decor items to intermix with the seller's own items. And then that all stays there through the selling process. And then you know, like when it's sold, I come and pick it all up. So it's always just me in the house. We always try to do photos. I always tell realtors, like, set the photos the same day in the afternoon. That way, all beds are fresh, all bathrooms are unused, everything is clean and pristine. And then you're only inconveniencing the seller for like 1 day. And they can get on with their normal routine, especially if they have kids that require bath time and early bedtimes, and you don't really have to worry about that. So
Do you ever plan early, like before that appointment with all your goods, to talk about decluttering and what looks best?
So I always do an in-person consultation prior to staging day. And I literally will walk the house, sometimes in conjunction with the realtor, but always in conjunction with the homeowner if it's an occupied property. And we'll just go through the house together. I'll take photos, I'll take measurements, I'll take notes, and I will say like, this room looks great. I'm just gonna like style it, add some accessories. This room, we really need to, declutter, pre-pack, and put these things away. If they need to, if they have a basement or even some people have what is called like a storage room, which is really great. Then we try to put those things in there. And sometimes I'll even be like, let's move this right now. Like, come move this couch with me. We're going to put it where we want it. And like, that way you can see how this would open up.
That's so nice.
And other times I'm like, okay, we need to get a storage unit. So let me give you some recommendations on that.
Have you used companies like Clutter and Make Space?
Mm-hmm. And Green, I just used them the other day. It'll come to me, but like that you call and they drop off all these bags, and then when you're ready, they come and pick them up and they like store them for the owner. And then when you say, okay, we're in our new place, they come and drop them off at the new place.
So great.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Wait, is that called Green? Is it
Green?
Is it the same thing as what you were talking about, Clutter? Or?
Yeah, there's a few companies, Clutter, Make Space.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know companies like that existed.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept, and it's making the sellers' lives much easier. I'm getting way less pushback about keeping things in storage than I was previously getting.
What's the cost difference between doing something like that versus like a pod type storage?
A lot less.
Yeah.
And just easier.
Okay.
They come with boxes. They can pack things up for you. I've had great experiences in my personal home too. They've been very professional.
Okay. And how long do they hold on to things typically? Because I would assume with it not being storage, it's a shorter term type situation.
Yeah, I mean, usually I've only had them hold on to it for like 3 months or something like that. That's generally that's kind of how I work it with my staging is I generally give everyone a contract for 3 months. It's something super specific or like extra luxury or maybe like off market, like a private listing. We might do something maybe longer, like 6 months. But generally, I find 3 months to be a good amount of time to have something staged or stored if you guys sell it like immediately, which has been happening a lot. But you still need to have the, all the stuff on the back end taken care of. You still need to have inspections and you still need to go through contingencies. Yeah. So that still does take time. And by then you're kind of into like 2.5 months, just depending on how all the stuff takes.
From a staging perspective, when do you guys all suggest that it, like, obviously you're always staging for the seller. So when do you suggest that the staging be moved out? Because I've had a lot of situations where the seller doesn't want the staging to be moved out until after the buyer's loan is clear to close. But sometimes that doesn't come in 3 days before closing. And then you can't close because the staging can't be removed for another week. So would you suggest?
Interesting.
Definitely, I always suggest try to go as long as possible. If it's an occupied stage, generally I can like accommodate, as close to that as like a couple days in advance, maybe a week. But if we're renting furniture, obviously the furniture rental company does need like a heads up. I like to give them 2 weeks because we have to mesh their schedule, my schedule, and then depending on the type of property it is, if it's a building, it's a multi-unit building, then we also might have to like correspond with the like elevator usage in a building. So to mesh all those schedules together is like a 2-week heads up is like really needed.
Yeah, no, I've had that come up a couple of times where the staging was an issue for closing. So
yeah, I did have a realtor who, I mean, God love him, I love him, but he just is like, I forgot to tell you. Space is under contract and the closing date is like, and I was like, yikes, I better call the furniture company this minute. And I mean, sometimes the furniture company is accommodating if they don't have anything else going on, but yeah, heads up is definitely
interesting because I wasn't sure if you were going to say, well, as soon as you're under contract and through the inspection negotiations, I
wouldn't say as soon as you're under contract, because as we know, sometimes that doesn't really like
right until you're through the inspection negotiation.
Yeah, I would say definitely like through the inspection or attorney review like is probably your best bet. Just so you know there's some sort of like, kind of good that it's going in the right direction, that you don't anticipate anyone backing out of this.
Mia, do you have a minimum, like a minimum amount of work you do on a listing?
Not really. Basically what it comes down to is if there is if it's vacant and we need to rent furniture, there is furniture rental minimum through the company. But for me, not really. Like if you just need me, I've had people like what I was saying about the closets. I've had realtors who are like, okay, we did the staging and the staging looks great, but like they just shoved everything in every closet. I need you to come back and just do all the closets. I spent like, I don't know, 4 hours doing closets.
It's also just so nice to have like someone else sometimes talk to the seller about like.
Yeah, that's really the key for me, for you guys, is that I'm the like neutral third party telling them like, I'm sorry, you just can't have all this crap on your bathroom floor or your kitchen countertops. Like I get to be the bad guy and say like, this is what it's really going to take to show your property in its best light. And you guys can just sit back and say like, listen to the professional. She knows what she's talking about.
And what are your fees for occupied homes?
So for basically, I kind of have like a pretty set standard of fees between $800 and $1,000, just depending on kind of like size and scope of work. 6-bedroom, we're going to be up at the top end, like 3-bedroom, probably down at 800. And that's just my fee of like, I'm coming to stage and I stage as long as it takes to stage. So if I'm there at 8 a.m. and we have photos at like 2 or 3, like I stay until that point is done. So it's kind of like an all day affair. But if we're just doing something small, like closets, or God, their garage is just packed, like you can't even fit a car in there, then that's kind of more like organization by an hourly basis.
Okay. Do you ever help with like calling donation trucks?
I don't like personally call them, but I can give people lists of like, okay, here's some good donation places to call, kind of the same way I do like, if you need storage space, like here are the places I've had good, relationships with, and that I think they do good work, but I'm not going to like set that up for.
Okay.
Now, I'm actually interested because with the pandemic, I had heard for a long time that a lot of showings were taking place just like where the agents were going in and videoing everything, and buyers weren't actually going in, or sellers weren't allowing open house. Well, I know for a while open houses weren't allowed.
Right.
So is that changing now? Are you guys seeing more people go in?
I think I've seen that change. I just did a stage for an occupied property, and I did it like on a Thursday, and they were holding an open house on a Saturday, and the realtor called me and she was like, holy cow, we've had 27 people show up, like 27 showings, and we've had 5 offers. And the 2 places, it was like a townhome, and there were 3 townhomes on the street that were for sale. And she's like, we were the only ones who got offers.
Yeah, staging matters for sure.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And I'd like to, if this is cool with everybody, we're about 7 minutes out. So is everybody cool with going over maybe 1 or 2 action steps on what you're, because I agree with a point Katrina made in the very beginning. It was like we never really had like a true lull from December, January, February. So then we're like right back. Usually there's a little bit of a, hey, take a breath, step back. We just didn't have that this year, just because of all the pent up demand. So is everybody cool with going over like 1 or 2, maybe like action steps on, hey, this is what I'm focusing on in March and April? Is everybody cool with doing something like that? Sorry, I'm trying to talk and drag out the question so people can think, so everybody's nodding vigorously, and they're like, Andy, shut up, just ask the question. So anybody can go first, realtors, partners, to say, hey, this is what my main focus is. And it doesn't have to be one thing, it can be a couple things, but just I want to give everybody the opportunity to talk, and then we can wrap up.
I think 2 things that I am starting to refocus on, a big thing for my team, and that we would try and do every week and hold each other accountable for, is like, what are we doing socially? Like, how are we getting out and meeting new people, or keeping connections with like, old work friends, like our friends, stuff like that, just to like continue your sphere. That was obviously really hard last year because I wasn't doing any social events. And so I think now that things are getting better and opening up, it's like reintroducing those things into your life, and maybe now reaching out to the people who you haven't seen or talked to in a year because you haven't done anything. So kind of like reintegrating that back into our life and as a part of our like lead generation. And then also to just keeping top of mind, because you are so busy with your new clients and your current clients, is making sure you're still finding ways to reach back out to your past clients and, text them, email them, whatever it may be, just to keep in touch with them, which I feel like falls to the back burner when you're so busy.
I think, yeah, piggybacking off of that, I've been trying to make like 2 appointments or meetings or whatever, like, or just like a walk with like a friend or a past client, just trying to connect with them. Like, so twice a week, I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a walk with this person, or I'm going to grab a coffee with this person. And again, it's like a little bit still hard with the pandemic, but now that the weather's getting nicer, it's opening up. So that's great. I've been doing that. And then another thing is just like focusing on Instagram and like trying to reach out to more people like on direct message. And I just found like I've had a lot of good luck with people recognizing that they're like, oh, wow, you look so busy. Like that's like, what, like, I'm thinking of buying, like, whatever. It's just like it's been really good to me. So just kind of reaching out to more people on Instagram, I think, is something I want to focus on.
Yeah, I've been so busy. My Instagram game went from like not 100, but maybe like 50 to just 0. And so I need to get back into that because Tori, I agree. That is how people learn about you. And it's crazy who might contact you. But Candice, you mentioned something earlier. It's just about educating these clients, whether it's sellers or buyers, and just making sure that I'm educating my clients through this spring market we're having.
Yeah, I definitely think one of my goals is because my business is very visual, like here's the before, here's the after, see the process. I think something that I need to work on for Instagram is doing the reels, because I think having the video before and after would really be like, I need to step that game up.
You guys are motivating me. I don't have a business
I know, Katrina.
Instagram page.
I don't have a business one either.
So I feel like I need to get going on that. I actually had a very weird 2020. I hired 2 people in March 2020, right before everything happened. So for me, even though I've kept being busy and have been continuously busy, as Andy was saying, there was no lull. For me, it's been great because I was able to keep on the 2 people that I hired. My assistant, who went from part-time, actually just went to more of a full-time role this month. So that's been great and very helpful. I'm also, I think a couple of you kind of mentioned this, I'm trying to also keep a work-life balance because, as you guys probably all know, when you're extremely busy, you're working like 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and it's like, oh, wow, I don't have a life. So I do think that is important as well. So I am trying to give myself, I'm one of those people who's very accessible to clients. I text clients, I email clients. I try to always touch base with everybody every day, unless like we're in that lull period after attorney review before the clear to close. So that's just something I guess I will put on my list of things to do this next month, is add Instagram. So thank you for that idea. Haven't really explored that yet. So yeah.
I think for me, it's, the work-life balance is a serious thing. I always joke with my husband. I'm like, I don't have any hobbies anymore. I think my hobby is work.
Yeah.
It's great. I love my team too. They're like family, so it's awesome. But I think when you get so busy and when you want to have a work-life balance, like time blocking is a huge thing. And like I try to focus on that. It's really challenging for me. I get distracted super easily, but I want to be able to give 100% to every area in my life and like my clients, my family, my friends. So making sure that I can time block in is super important for me, and always staying connected with clients, past clients, future clients, and like Carissa said it, education, just like educating your clients, especially with where the market's at right now. Being super hands-on with clients too. I have a lot of clients that are not first-time home buyers, so being on TAN, being on Private Listing Network, creating inventory and ideas for my clients is really important too, so that they have opportunities. So those are some of the focuses that I have.
Mine is boundaries and balance. So that transaction management, showing up for every person, every deal, and then also not losing sight of the lead incubation, the prospecting, the relationships, and then like the personal time too. Like, you know what, I'm going to take 20 minutes, I'm going to walk the dog, and I'm not, that's my me time. So I think boundaries and balance, that's the name of the game for us in 2021.
I love that.
Yeah, I like
I
that.
love it all too. It's great. I don't want to, I'll sort of cut this. Krista, time blocking is huge. And as a joke, like I seriously time block to time block. I've actually read that. I read that in a bit. I used to read a lot of business books. I guess I still do, but now it's more parenting books just because of the stage I'm at in my life now. But time blocking is huge, and boundaries. I love this all. So we're going to cut the live feed. Thanks for tuning in. I want to be respectful of everybody's time on here. Like I say, I don't mind if stuff goes a minute or two over, but hey, you're at an event. That's the beauty of virtual stuff. It's just click, done, on to the next thing. So we're going to cut the live feed right now. Thanks for tuning in.
Andy.
All right. Live stream has stopped. Hey guys, thank you so much. I will send all the social links, an email thanking everybody, just in case anybody wants to connect afterwards. But you'll be well informed when we have our next in-person event. Hope if you can register for the virtual bingo, it should be something fun. You can time block it. It's only an hour and a half. But you might win some. It'll be just fun to get something, get face to face with everybody. And I appreciate you sacrificing the hour. Thanks for adding value to the community as a whole. And
I love this. This was awesome.
Yeah, so great meeting and talking with all of you.
Thank you.
And you know the drill. If you want to get on another one of these, we calendar these out. I've had people say, hey, look, can I get on one next week? We usually calendar these out about 5-6 weeks. I think we're booking into end of April right now. And so in fact, Krista, Tommy's on one on 4/20, which I know it's birthday because it's my son's birthday. But so I mean, we're booking these out. I think till, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think it's Tommy and Josh's birthday, and it's my son's birthday, and it's Tori's birthday. Wow. So my point is, if you want to get on another one, email me. We can shuffle the deck, get different realtors partners on just to hear different perspectives on stuff. Because like a jam session, obviously in March, is going to look way different than one will in June, which is why we keep just pumping timely content in the community. So I'm going to cut it. I appreciate everybody's time, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Bye, guys.
Hey.
Adios.
You guys too.